They refused to put it in. The Steele report was a disaster. All lies, all fabrication, all admitted, an admitted fraud. She paid $12 million, and the Democrats, for that report to a wise guy named Christopher Steele. He wrote a phony report, and they wanted to get that report in before the election. And I'll tell you what, I talk about all the time, the fake news, how bad it is. But in this case, they wouldn't do it. They saw it, they read it, and they said, we don't believe it. And it was only after, substantially, like a month and a half after the election, that it got printed, and it was a big wisp. It was just like a bang of nothing, because the election had ended. If that report had gotten published by the New York Times or somebody, and I respect the Times for maybe only this, because they're crooked as you can be. They're a terrible paper, a crooked, corrupt paper. But for this one moment, they said, this is bullshit, we can't put this in.
Welcome back, Patriots. Before we dive into today's explosive truth bomb, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with every red-blooded American who still believes in truth, freedom, and justice. We're not here to tiptoe around the facts. We're here to expose the corruption and stand for our Constitution.
May I ask you about that, Mr. President?
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard has submitted a criminal referral to the Department of Justice. From your perspective, who should the DOJ target as part of their investigation? What specific figures in the Obama administration?
Well, based on what I read, and I read pretty much what you read, it would be President Obama. He started it. And Biden was there with him, and Comey was there, and Clapper, the whole group was there. Brennan, they were all there in a room, right here. This was the room. This is much more beautiful than it was then, but that's okay. I have nice pictures up. They came out of the vaults. They were in there for 100 years. This is much more beautiful. We have the Declaration of Independence now in the room, which wasn't here. I guess people didn't feel too good about putting it here, but I do. But you know what? If you look at those papers, they have them stone cold, and it was President Obama. It wasn't lots of people all over the place. It was them too. But the leader of the gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one they, look, he's guilty. It's not a question, you know, I like to say, let's give it time. It's there, he's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. You've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries, but you've never seen anything like it. And we have all of the documents. And from what Tulsi told me, she's got thousands of additional documents coming. So President Obama, it was his concept, his idea, but he also got it from crooked Hillary Clinton. Crooked is a $3 bill. Hillary Clinton and her group, the Democrats, spent $12 million to Christopher Steele to write up a report that was a total fake report. Took 2 years to figure that out, but it came out that it was a total fake report. It was made up fiction. And they used that. Now, the one thing they weren't able to do was to, and probably the only thing I respect about the press in years is the press refused to write it before the election. They refused to put it in. The Steele report was a disaster. All lies, all fabrication, all admitted, an admitted fraud. She paid $12 million, and the Democrats, for that report to a wise guy named Christopher Steele. He wrote a phony report, and they wanted to get that report in before the election. And I'll tell you what, I talk about all the time, the fake news, how bad it is. But in this case, they wouldn't do it. They saw it, they read it, and they said, we don't believe it. And it was only after, substantially, like a month and a half after the election, that it got printed, and it was a big wisp. It was just like a bang of nothing, because the election had ended. If that report had gotten published by the New York Times or somebody, and I respect the Times for maybe only this, because they're crooked as you can be. They're a terrible paper, a crooked, corrupt paper. But for this one moment, They said, this is bullshit, we can't put this in. And neither could any other paper. Wall Street Journal's a lousy paper, very, very dishonest paper. As you see, I'm suing them for a lot of money because they do things very badly. It's got a nice name, but it's really, in my opinion, it's a terrible paper. And it can be corrupt. But just so you know, they didn't take the Steele report. It was the Dossier. Remember the famous Dossier? I called it the fake news dossier. The news wouldn't publish it. And I'm amazed. They had 2.5 months. It was finished. 2.5 months. That was supposed to be what was going to happen. And it got published a couple of months after the election. And frankly, nobody cared too much about it. But that was a big thing. No, we caught Hillary Clinton. We caught Barack Hussein Obama. They're the ones. And then you have many, many people under them. Susan Rice. They're all there. The names are all there. And I guess they figured they're going to put this in classified information and nobody will ever see it again. But it doesn't work that way. And it's the most unbelievable thing I think I've ever read. So you ought to take a look at that and stop talking about nonsense, because this is big stuff. Never has a thing like this happened in the history of our country. And by the way, it morphed into the 2020 race. And the 2020 race was rigged, and it was a rigged election. And because it was rigged, we have millions of people in our country. We had inflation. We solved the inflation problem. But millions and millions of people came into our country because of that. And people that shouldn't have been, people from gangs and from jails and from mental institutions, people that we don't want in our country, and people that we're getting out, dangerous people. 11,888 murderers, many of them, 50%, more than 50%, murdered more than one person. I hate to say this with such a distinguished guest, but you know, they asked me a question. I got to answer the question. No, Barack Hussein Obama is the ringleader. Hillary Clinton was right there with him, and so was Sleepy Joe Biden. And so were the rest of them. Comey, Clapper, the whole group. And they tried to rig an election, and they got caught. And then they did rig the election in 2020. And then because I knew I won that election by a lot, I did it a third time, and I won in a landslide. Every swing state won the popular vote. But I won that all the same way in 2020. And look at the damage that was caused.
Let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, what we just heard confirms what many of us have known for years. The deep state isn't a theory. It's a cold, hard reality. President Trump laid it out, crystal clear. Barack Hussein Obama was the ringleader of the most treacherous political scandal in American history. And he wasn't alone. He had his entire gang: Sleepy Joe Biden, James Comey, John Brennan, James Clapper, Susan Rice, and of course the queen of corruption herself, Hillary Crooked as a $3 Bill Clinton. Let's pause there. We're talking about a former president of the United States orchestrating a plan to sabotage an American election, to destroy a political outsider who dared to challenge their swampy grip on power. This wasn't just dirty politics, it was treason. Yes, I said it. Treason. They tried to steal an election, undermine our democracy, and then, when that didn't work, they tried to destroy President Trump with a phony dossier paid for with $12 million of Democrat money. That Steele dossier. 100% fake. Fabricated. Made-up fiction. And they all knew it. Even the mainstream media, who usually lap up anti-Trump garbage, refused to publish it before the election. Why? Because even they couldn't stomach how fake it was. That should tell you everything. The New York Times, Wall Street Journal, all the big names, they held it back, but only until after the election. Then they pounced. Too little, too late. And now, Tulsi Gabbard comes in swinging with a criminal referral. And what does Trump say? The documents prove everything. And more are coming. We're talking thousands of documents exposing just how deep this treachery runs. Folks, this isn't about Trump anymore. This is about every single American who voted in good faith, who trusts our system, who believes that we the people should decide the outcome of an election, not unelected bureaucrats hiding in the shadows. But it gets worse. According to Trump, what they did in 2016 morphed into the full-blown rigging of the 2020 election. And because of that, we're now dealing with the devastating consequences. Open borders, skyrocketing inflation, and an invasion of criminals, murderers, gang members, and yes, people being let out of jails and institutions pouring into our country. He said it, 11,888 murderers, and many of them killed more than once. That's not immigration. That's an attack on American safety. And they want us to stay quiet? They want us to forget 2020 ever happened? Not on my watch. Let me tell you something, Right View Nation. We saw what they did, and we're not backing down. President Trump said it best. He won in 2020, and he'll win again. Why? Because we're done playing nice. We're done letting corrupt politicians dictate our future. This is the greatest political scandal of our time. They tried to rig one election. They succeeded in rigging the next. And they destroyed this country in the process. But we're awake now. We're not going back to sleep. We're watching. We're organizing. And come 2024 or 2025, we're taking our country back. Patriots, if this fired you up, you know what to do. Like this video. Subscribe to Right View Nation. Comment below with your thoughts. Do you believe Obama and Clinton should be prosecuted? And most importantly, share this video with every American who's tired of being lied to. Together, we're going to expose the truth. Together, we'll restore this republic. This is Right View Nation, and we're just getting started. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.